Well, unfortunately, Mark, it looks like Bob Dylan is just going to get his ass kicked tonight.
Dueling decades.
Well, this game is all tied up at 1 point each. We're heading into our first 2-point round. I got control of the board. You know what, guys? Let's go over to the music round. All right. Released June 8th, 1970, I give you Bob Dylan's 10th album, Self-Portrait. Now, this is an album that's jam-packed with songs in the public domain and not your favorite versions of a few of your favorite songs. So much like the critically acclaimed Blonde on Blonde, this album was actually a double album, but that's where the comparisons can stop. Instead of being the voice of a generation on Self-Portrait, Bob Dylan just repeated the voices of the past, as this album is mostly comprised of covers ranging from old-timey folky songs to personal favorites like Paul Simon's The Boxer, which had just come out a year earlier. So Dylan himself said that Self-Portrait was something of a joke. It was far below the standards that he set for himself in the 1960s, and it was just made to get people off his back and to end the whole spokesperson of a generation tag. The album is also seen as a way to beat the bootleggers from getting this material and basically just cashing in with extra scraps they had laying around. A review in the Gazette out of Montreal, Quebec, Canada, June 27th, 1970, said, when talking about the album and its iconic self-portrait cover, which was painted by Dylan, this may well be the essential Bob Dylan and the least listenable. Produced by Bob Johnson with the help of 50 assorted musicians, Self-Portrait's 24 songs seem like a private collection of Dylan's favorite material gone public. And then he goes on to say, if with the same music we could call forth a vision of Bob wandering around his house some morning in his pajama bottoms, humming raspily to himself, then these two recordings may have some real soul to them. So I give you Bob Dylan with Self-Portrait, June 8th, 1970.
Mike, was it Bob Dylan that you saw in concert where
Yes,
you were going to see?
yeah, I slept out in an alley in Poughkeepsie, and I had to get tickets for it. And it was 2002. His new album had just come out, and he did not play one song like that anybody had ever heard before. I left a little bit early because after like the first hour and a half, it's like, man, this is all off the new album that I don't have. And I had heard his final song was Like a Rolling Stone.
Yeah, there is a version of Like a Rolling Stone and Quinn the Eskimo on this on this album, but they're versions from the Isle of Wight, and they're just not even good versions of the songs.
Nah.
All right, Mike Ranger, I'll toss it over to you next. What did you bring for the music round?
Well, unfortunately, Mark, it looks like Bob Dylan is just going to get his ass kicked tonight because on June 23rd, 1980, Bob Dylan released the second of 3 albums that would be released during his conversion to Christianity. These albums became known as his Christianity trilogy. The first was titled Slow Train Coming, the third A Shot of Love, and this album titled Saved. The 20th studio album by Bob Dylan features gospel arrangements and lyrics of personal faith. The album did reach number 3 in the UK and number 24 in the US, but failed to go gold. I found a review in the New York Daily News on June 30th, 1980. The review says that Dylan has made the transition from rock and roller to holy roller. And writer Bill Carlton laments how he misses the old Dylan, the fiery, cynical, topical troubadour who gave the world great songs like Oxford Town, Mr. Tambourine Man, and Like a Rolling Stone. He used to move mountains. Now he just sits on top of them.
Ooh.
You know, it's interesting because it's not that Dylan didn't bring a lot of God or biblical stuff into his music before. He did do a lot of that, but it was always from like a cynical kind of perspective. And now he becomes like a little bit more of a preacher.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah,
not one of my favorites.
Questioning everything to just falling in line.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Mancrush. What Bob Dylan album did you bring?
Yeah, it's funny. None. I did not.
Thank God.
All right, so let's go June 5th of 1990. And you know what? At first, I saw this one. I was going to pick it, and I was like, I hope my wife doesn't listen to this episode because she'll kill me for this. And Stacy Lanigan, you might kill me for this. I saw you're in the chat. But I approached my wife about this first, and I sold her my side of the story, and she actually agreed with me. So I'm in the clear here. And if you're a fan of this group, I did give this group props on a best of episode with their smash hit album that came out in August of 1988. So if you're feeling bad about this selection, find solace by listening to that older episode. I think that was like last year, maybe. However, this album, it's just not good. It's not. By this point in 1990, every guy in elementary school despised these guys. Despised every guy. Matter of fact, I remember this band being used as an insult, like to insult other dudes in elementary school. Like if you really wanted to piss somebody off, you just spread a rumor that he listened to this group, and it was like the biggest burn of elementary school if you could do that. Anyhow, the previous album, the one that came out in 1988, that went 8 times platinum. So 2 years later, this album went 3 times platinum. So in other words, 5 million adoring fans of the other album would agree that this album is just not good. Yes, this album, it did hit number 1 on the Billboard 200, and it featured the hit single Step by Step, which reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. However, the rest of the album is nothing but filler. The song Tonight, and this is what my wife brought up, and she said, make sure you mention that. Okay, the first 2 songs of this album are good. Tonight would also hit number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100. But honestly, I don't even remember how that song went. And the other singles, Valentine Girl and Let's Try It Again, they didn't even do well. So let's take a step back and let's look at the sheer laziness of this album, okay? When I say it's nothing but filler, this is the truth. To the fans of this band that are in the chat, if Stacy's going nuts, like you get two songs that end with the word again, which both of them arguably feature the least popular new kid, Danny Wood. You had Let's Try It Again, which I mentioned before, and then you had Never Gonna Fall in Love Again, lazy. Then you had, listen, this is how, if you're gonna have a lazy album and you're gonna put it together and you need a filler song, then you use Happy Birthday. And that's what they did. They put Happy Birthday on this album. It doesn't get any lazier. I'm looking at the lyrics to this song. Happy birthday to you. This is your day. On this day for you, we're going to love you. Like, it's happy birthday. Get out of here. And then there's 2 more songs with the word baby in them. Baby, I believe in you, and Stay With Me, Baby. Lazy. Then you had the monotonous Games, where they repeat the word games 37 times. And then they round up the album with Funny Feeling. And I got a funny feeling that this album sucks. And this is New Kids on the Block, Step by Step.
All right, let's pass it down to Courtney Gains for his judgment on the music round.
Yeah, okay. New Kids. I mean, anybody's defending New Kids, whatever. I guess you're into pop. But well, that's, yeah.
Stacy just said in the chat, Stay With Me, Baby is awful in capital letters, and she's a fan.
Okay.
So I'll throw it. Thank you, Stacy.
But yeah, I would think, I'd have to go with Bob Dylan, the Christian record. Sorry to get you excited there. And just because, I think it's just such a crazy thing that, he was a voice of a generation. And then, like you said, sort of became a preacher. Some people hung their hat on him, and then he just sort of lets them down in the end. It is interesting to me, even though he has become very, very religious, which is rather interesting, right? Like, how did he find his way from where he initially was to that? But yeah, I think it's the biggest letdown of them all, I would say. So I got to go with that one. But since we're on the subject of music, can I plug my music for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I got a couple things going on. I got an acoustic record I'm putting out right now called Acoustic Gains Volume 1. And I sort of say it harkens back to the 70s, and that when I grew up, there was so many songs that had acoustic guitars in them and things, which nowadays you just don't hear any. It's pretty rare anyway. So I put out a single last week called Cherish, and another single's coming out called Let It Ride, which is very vintage, very blues. and that's coming out on Monday the 5th. So I don't know if it's a great time right after the 4th, but that's when it's coming out. So so got that going. And then I also have a band called Ripple Street, and we put out 3 singles this year for us so far. Our last single was called Would You, and I would say to say it sounds Black Sabbath-esque is fair. And it's pretty heavy, and I like the way it came out. And we've got 2 more singles we're going to drop on that to complete an EP this year. So you can check all that out on Spotify if you have that, or you can find it on iTunes or Apple or Deezer or Amazon and all that good stuff. And there's my music plug.
I listened to Ripple Street. I actually got like a Alice in Chains type vibe.
What was it? Was it the Would You song, or was it?
No, it was Slabs.
Oh, Slab City. Yeah, Alice in Chains. When we did our EPK on that song, we threw that in there. As a matter of fact, my girlfriend, who is, a 90s girl and loves 80s music, though, she was the one who really said Alice in Chains. So very good. So I'm not, and I like Slab City. We have a pretty good video for that up on YouTube as well. So, and some of the first record is definitely 90s grunge-ish all the way. So,
who would you say influences you guys? I know you're talking about the acoustic and the 70s stuff, but like,
no, I don't mind talking about both projects at all. They're both aspects of what I'm doing. So
right.
I approach acting and music the same way in terms of like, I don't get caught up in influence. You know what I mean? Like you can't be somebody else, right? So especially probably the more you love them, the less you can be like them, right? So you got to find out, you can be inspired by them, and you got to like do what you do, And to me, when you with Ripple Street, the bass player Stephen Lee Adams, we've done a lot of co-writing, and writing with the bass player and bass riffs is when you're a guitar player and you write songs with guitar, you are sort of Bob Dylan-esque, where you just try to cram a ton of lyrics in. That's what we all do, right? But when you're doing a rock band and you're writing songs with a bass player, you tend to have to really simplify your lyrics. You have to cut kind of what you would maybe do if you were just writing a guitar song kind of in half. And so it forces you to kind of really, so not say dumb it down, but get to your point. And that's an interesting challenge. Now, that's what I like about co-writing, is it brings out different aspects. And so I think maybe Steve was pretty interested or influenced by the grunge, and maybe that's why we have a bit of a grunge sound. I don't know. What
about your acoustic stuff? Like as far as like writing goes and all that?
It's really all about feel for me, man. It's not about anything else. It's about and I think what separates me as the man from the boys as an actor is I think I can go deep into emotional content. I can go places some people can't go, in my opinion. And I'm willing to go. And I think that's the other thing. Are you all willing to go there? Right. But it's also the training I've had. But it's the same thing with the music. I'm trying to connect to something emotionally. I'm trying to connect to a feeling that I'm having about something. And then whatever comes out of the guitar that goes with that, right? Or you start writing a song and it brings up some emotion, and then there's a lyric that comes out of it. But for me, music's been, a lot of it's therapy. If you listen to the first Ripple Street album, it's just a straight up breakup album. It's a bitter, angry breakup album.
Right.
But thank God I had a venue to get my feelings out.
Right. Which people need.
I think that's what's great about art. Art gives you a chance to express yourself. And I think that people that go postal don't have a release, and then they do something incredibly crazy instead. Get crazy doing, act crazy in a movie, act crazy writing a song, don't get out a submachine gun and go nuts on people,
Right. No, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
We had I know it's not the time now because we got a round left, but it's up to you. We had what was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago? We had Brendan B. Brown from Weedus was on, and he did Teenage Dirtbag acoustic on the show live. I don't know.
We could maybe do an acoustic soon. I could maybe even do Let It Ride, which is the song that's coming out. So
all right, cool.
Let's do it after the round.
Rest your voice up.